If you want some FIFA 23 coins, please check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're fast, cheap and reliable, and if you use code Rema you can get yourself a 5% discount.
So what's up guys, my name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video guys, I've got some 4-1-2-1-2 narrow custom tactics and player instructions for you guys that are struggling in weekend league, rivals or whatever. I hope these do help you out. Just before we get into the video though guys, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on post notifications and all that good stuff so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, let's get right into today's video. Okay guys, starting off with custom tactics. For the defensive style guys, it's the same as most of my other formations. I like to use balance. The reason for this is it gives you more control in your defense. You get to press when you want to press, and then you can be more conservative when you need to be, so it does give you greater control. If you want to use pressure tactics like a lot of people do, go for it. I just suggest using balanced as it does make you a better player overall when you can master it. Moving on to defensive width guys, I like to have this on 43. The reason for this is people like to play a very narrow style in FIFA 23, so it's important that you cover those narrow areas, to cover the central areas of the pitch, but it's also important that you do have just enough coverage to reach those wings when people do play down the wings, because if you look at the diagram bottom right hand corner of the screen, you can see our defensive shape is very narrow, but if somebody was to go down the wings, you can see the fullbacks and even the wider players will be able to cover that area, so it is very effective guys. Now moving on to the depth guys, I like to use 52. The reason for this is more of a attacking formation, so you do have to sacrifice a bit of the defensive stability at times, so I like to have the depth at about 52 because sometimes I like to win the ball quite high up the pitch, so it's important that your defensive line isn't always super deep, because otherwise you'll find yourself getting pinned back, and you don't really want that in this formation. Now for build-up play guys, I like to use balance. The reason for this is it gives you the most control when you are building up the play. Some people like to use fast build-up, but in this formation I don't think it works too well because it can move too quickly for your own good, if that makes sense, especially when the gameplay is a little bit heavier, and it can catch you out of position a lot of the time. So I like to use balance with this formation as it does give you the best control when you are building up the play. Now for chance creation guys, as always I suggest direct passing. The reason for this is if you look at the diagram in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, it is the only setting which will actually make your attacking players penetrate the defensive line. It's the only one which will actually make them move in a dynamic motion. You can see in the diagram the white dots actively move to create those chances. If we look at something like balance, they do not do this. You can see they're very static, they don't really move the defense about all that much, so it doesn't really work, especially on the new gen. If you are on the old gen, you can get away with using something like balance, but on the new gen consoles, the new gen versions, it's very important to use direct passing. Now for attacking width guys, because this is a more narrow formation, it makes sense that we have the width a lot lower. So we have this on 40 because it is a nice narrow width. This doesn't always mean you have to play super narrow. You're going to see with the player instructions why this works, but because it is a narrow formation, you need to make the most of that. You don't want to make it something it isn't, so we have this on 40. If you want to up this or lower it, that's up to you, but I have it on 40 as a good middle ground. Now for players in box guys, in this formation I like to have it on 5. The reason for this is you don't want to overcommit everybody into the box in this formation because it can leave you unstuck. So having this on 5 means like your cam and your strikers will get into the box and maybe the odd other player, but it also means you don't overcommit everyone into the box, so you're vulnerable to counter attacks. In other formations I have this on like 6 or 7, but with this one I don't like it because it does leave you vulnerable. But again, if you want to up this or lower it, that's completely up to you. Now corners and free kicks, these are down to preference as well. I just leave them on 2 because I like to have some players in the box from corners and free kicks, but I also don't like to get counter attacks, so it gives me a nice balance. Again, if you want to up it or lower it, it's completely up to you. But yeah, they are the custom tactics. Let's move on to the players you want to use in this formation. Okay guys, so for the players you want to use in the striker positions, because it is a 2-striker formation, you do have a bit more freedom with the players you use. I like to use a balance between the 2 strikers, so I'm using Keane and Leao. Leao's a bit more of a physical runner striker, and Keane's a bit more of a technical player that is able to do those intricate turns, finish on either foot, that kind of thing. But if you want to use 2 lengthy players or 2 explosive players, that's completely fine, but I like to go for a balance between the 2 of them. Now for the cam, you're going to want somebody that is technical technical, somebody that is able to do the things that a cam needs to do, like pass, shoot, turn, hold up the ball, whatever. You need them to be very good in that attacking position, and they need to have the movement that a cam needs. So I suggest a high attacking work rate, so they are always making the best possible runs, because I think it's very important. If they're not making the best movements, you're going to struggle, especially in this formation, because it is very reliant on the cam a lot of the time. Now, for your right centre mid, guys, I suggest a more box-to-box style player, but they are going to be on stay back while attacking, as you're going to see in the player instructions. So because they are primarily meant to stay back, they do need to have good defensive stats, but at the same time, because it is a centre mid, when you do need them to attack a little bit, you need them to have the stats to cover that. So to really cover all the grounds, I like to have a high player with balanced stats in this position. So somebody like a Renato Sanchez is perfect if you're on a budget, but I'm using Park Ji-sung because he works very well. Now for the CDM, you do need a more defensive player, so I'm using Patrick Vieira. The best work rate for this position is a medium high, but for example, this version of Vieira, the baby version, is a medium, but because he has very good defensive stats, it doesn't matter all too much. So make sure you have very good defensive stats in this position, and a medium high work rate is preferable. You can get away with a medium, but try and avoid, let's say, like a high medium in the CDM position, because they are meant to stay back. Now for your left centre mid, I suggest somebody that has a high work rate, and also somebody that has good attacking stats, because these are going to be quite an offensive player as well as a centre mid. So you're going to see why this works in the player instructions as well. But the high work rate is important, because it means we will be able to defend in a 4-4-2 very effectively, because if they don't have the high defensive work rate and the high attacking work rate, they won't transition all that well. So you're going to see why this works in the player instructions, but you just got to trust me on this one, guys. If you can't get a high work rate, just make sure you have like a more attacking player in this position. Now for your fullbacks, guys, I suggest one more defensive fullback and one more attacking fullback. You can go for like 2 defensive fullbacks if you want to, or 2 offensive fullbacks, but it will affect your player instructions a little bit. I like to go for a bit of a balance, so Hernandez is better on the ball, Walker's more defensive, but again, it's completely down to what you guys want, really. Now for your centre back and goalkeeper, you can pretty much use whoever you want, but I suggest going for as meta as possible. The only reason I'm using Chesney in goal is because he's good for chemistry. Okay guys, for the player instructions, like I said, I have a balance between my 2 strikers. So my left striker, Robbie Keane, who is a bit more of a technical player, someone that can do a bit more than just run in behind, I have him on stay central and mixed attack. The reason for this is we don't need him drifting off to the wings, because that area will be covered when you look at what we do with the fullback. So have him on stay central, and because he's a more technical player, someone that can do a bit of everything, I have him on mixed attack. If this was like a lengthy player or more of a runner in behind, I'd put him on getting behind, but because he isn't, I like to have him on mixed attack so he can do a bit of everything. Now Rafael Leao, like I said, is a bit more of a physical, bit more of a runner striker, so I have him on stay central like Robbie Keane and getting behind, because we want to make the most out of his runs, because that's what he's good at. So we do have him on getting behind, but let's say you have like 2 technical players, you could have them both on mixed attack or whatever. So you basically switch this instruction for whatever suits your strikers the best. Now for the cam, guys, you're going to see why this works. We have him on comeback on defense. This is because it will make this formation defend in a 4-4-2. The team will defend in a 4-4-2, and you're going to see why this works. So Chiesa will actually come back to defend as the right mid in this defensive formation. So it does add a lot of defensive support, which is very cool, guys. Now for your right centre mid, I suggest stay back while attacking and cover centre. The reason for this is we want him to be in the centre of the 4 midfielders, if that makes sense, when we are defending. So having him on cover centre means he will defend centrally, because he is a good centre mid, so we want him in that position. Stay back while attacking means he will primarily stay back, because you're going to see what we do with our fullbacks in a moment. But it doesn't mean you can't attack with this player, it just means he's got a bit more of a conservative approach when we attack. So it does work very well. You're going to see why this works so well in a moment. Now for the CDM, guys, stay back while attacking, cover centre. The reason for this is, again, it's similar to Park Ji-sung. We need him to cover the central areas, because he's going to be one of the 2 centre mids in this 4-4-2 defensive shape, if that makes sense. And we also want him to stay back while attacking, because that's his job. We don't need him to attack, he's a defensive player, so we want him to stay back. I like to have him on balanced defense, because this is a 1 CDM formation. If this was like a 4-2-3-1 where we have 2 CDMs, we could put him on like cut passing lanes, but because there's only one CDM, balanced defense works a little bit better because we do need him to do a bit of everything. Now for your left centre mid, which is like the more attacking player, we leave him on completely balanced instructions and cover wing. The reason for this is Foden will then come and defend as the left mid. So like I said, we're going to have the 4 defenders, and then we're going to have Foden as the left mid, Vieira as the left centre mid, Park Ji-sung as the right centre mid, and then Chiesa as the right mid. So we're going to have a very nice defensive shape. Leaving him on balanced attack means he will contribute to the attack because he's a more attacking player. So everything works very well having this instruction on. Now for the 2 fullbacks, guys, I suggest balanced attack and overlap, especially if you've got fullbacks that are decent enough on the ball. Kyle Walker's maybe not as good as Hernandez, but he's still capable of making those runs because he is a lengthy player over the distance and he can whip in across. So both fullbacks, balanced attack, overlap, because this is going to give us extra width in the formation. Now I know we have a primarily narrow attacking tactic with 40, but because we've got the fullbacks going forward, that adds to the width, so it does work very well. You can play narrow and wide at the same time, so it does work very well. If you have 2 defensive fullbacks or this is too offensive for you, you can just switch them to stay back while attacking and that'll be fine, but I suggest balanced attack and overlap to give you the extra width because you can struggle otherwise. But yeah, they are my custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-1-2-1-2 narrow. If you guys have enjoyed or found this useful, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.